3 days into escrow, my broker represents us, and he gets a phone call from the agent saying, "Why are you selling my house?" She didn't die. The seller had no idea.
This was his wife?
So the seller's wife faked her death.
We thought he just faked it.
Yeah, so did I.
We thought they just faked the death to you, but they faked the death to each other?
Yeah, like she's like, I want out of this, I'm dead.
Holy crap. But don't sell my house while I'm dead.
All right, so welcome, Rick. Thank you so much for joining us here on Slum Dog Millionaires. We are so excited to have you and learn more about you. And I think we want to start out of your specialty of house hacking. And what exactly is house hacking for those people who are not in the real estate world?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me on to start off with. I always appreciate it. So house hacking is basically, it's a mix of owner-occupied meets real estate investing. So you basically buy a property as primary residence, so you're going to move in, and then you either rent out by the room, rent out another unit, so like a duplex, right? Live on one side, rent out the other, buy a single-family house, rent out by the bedroom, and it's a way to kind of break into the real estate game with low money down, right? Because you can do the FHA, you can do 5% down, whatever, and you don't have to worry about points that you usually have to pay when you're an investor, putting worse interest rate, all that kind of stuff. And then you move out, and then you can do it again. So I've done it twice here in Los Angeles, and for the first time, I'm actually in a new home where we're not house hacking.
Nice. How does that feel?
Weird. I have a garage.
Weird.
I've never had a garage before.
Wow.
I called my lender and I'm like, okay, so I'm thinking about kicking my husband out so he can go and live in a triplex for a little while and we can continue to build. Because with the kids, we can't do it anymore. The jumping around, it makes it harder. But I'm like, well, he can't.
I'll tell you, so my wife wasn't initially on board. My first house hack I did on my own. But the second one, we did the FHA 203K loan, which I don't know if you're familiar with. It's 3.5% down of the purchase price plus construction. So we did the remodel, the addition, and then converted the garage into the ADU. And the plan was live in the main house, rent out the ADU. But like most projects, over budget, over time, and we were engaged. And then right after the wedding, I was like, we're broke, we're moving into the studio ADU, or renting out the main house. And it's like, wait, what are we doing? I was like, look, by living in the smaller of the two units, it's still owner-occupied, so we can still refinance.
That is really fantastic and exciting.
Yeah. I'm sure she was like, that's not what we discussed. But in the long run, she knew that you had the best intentions at hand.
Right.
Just to clarify,
I think one of the biggest things with house hacking, and I think a lot of people, they struggle to get their head wrapped around, is that it's not forever.
Right. For the listeners, they might not know what an ADU is, so if you want to explain that.
Sure, of course. So an ADU, an accessory dwelling unit, is basically a rentable guest house, a rentable second unit. So it's typically they'll either do one from brand new construction, they'll convert a garage, or you can even convert a section of the existing home. But it's a way to add units on a property that might be zoned for single family.
Correct. Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that in Bradenton, in our local market. We're seeing a lot of those being able to be added. Again, they are having the requirement that you do have to own or occupy, so that's kind of a big deal. But I did want to ask you, so in doing so, let's say you were just renting out a bedroom in your house. Have you heard or seen or experienced any negative, like very negative experiences with that? Or it's been, pretty...
It's a really good question. I had, knock on wood, good luck with it. I also rented out to a friend of mine. Right? But to be fair, that's part of it. So because you're living on the property, your vetting process is going to be very different than you might do as a typical rental, right? Investment property, I don't really care. Do they meet my criteria? And then we're done. I have clients where they focus on like student housing, for example. So he's house hacking, but everybody in the house is a college student.
Wow. Yep. That would be bizarre.
Yeah, well,
it's like a frat house.
Exactly. I actually work with an investor right now who she actually got into this. Her and her family run a student housing company, and she now owns it's like 37 houses in Sarasota, and that is how she has done it, is student housing.
I just bought a duplex in Tennessee, and we're a few blocks from the university.
Wow, that's awesome for you. That's forever. Yeah. That's a great investment.
So I've already reached out to all the fraternities and sororities. and said, hey, are you interested? I'd rather rent it as a 5-bedroom property than a duplex. And I come from a fraternity background, so it's like, yeah, I get it. Housing can be tough. Well, there you go, Kappa Sigma. There it is. Yeah, it was one of the best decisions I ever made.
That's
I hear
awesome.
that from most people who are in.
Yeah, my mom was in a sorority. She was in AOPI when she was in college. She tried to get me in. They basically like kidnapped me, and I was like, "This is not for me." I was like, "I don't know. I don't have time for this." Unfortunately, I did not get into the sorority world.
Well, I'll tell you, a lot of people ask if like college is worth it right now. You know, with the student loans and job market, and I tell people, I'm like, college is worth more from a networking perspective.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. It's not all about just the degree that you're getting. I say that to people all the time because I don't use my degree. My degree is in nursing.
Yeah.
So I do nothing with that. But it is more about learning to juggle the workload and also the friends and the people that you meet, the connections you make. So I totally agree.
True. Yeah, that's something that we've been talking about a lot between us because we have small children and everybody keeps asking us like, are you saving for college? Are your kids going to go to college? Like, on the social networking side, yeah, I would love for them to go to college because, yeah, that's where you make some of your best and longest friendships and people that you're going to have for the rest of your life. And even I was talking to Kayla last week that I had one of my alumni people came out to Sarasota and he looked me up just to see what I was doing, just to like see how it's going and what I'm up to. So it was really cool to reconnect. And he knew one of my friends who was teaching at the university, and it was really nice. Yeah. So on that side, yes. But then again, we see the AI and we're like, wow, are our kids even going to have jobs? We don't know. Like, or only certain jobs will exist. Maybe they're going to be plumbers. I don't know.
My best guess is it'll take some jobs, but it's going to be kind of rough to say. It's going to be like entry-level stuff, right? Like I have a client that works for a pharmaceutical company, and I asked her, I was like, I can ask ChatGPT to give me a great marketing plan. And she's like, yes, but someone has to input that information.
Right. Yeah, you have to ask it the right questions for sure to get, it's like a genie in a bottle for sure. We talk about that a lot.
Yes, and actually we're doing a class here on AI and that's
on Thursday.
On Thursday. And it's probably the biggest talking point is that you have to have AI work for you. You cannot work for AI. You can't just use AI to be you. You have to be able to
really be specific in what you're asking.
And then when they give you the information, you have to make it you and make sure that it's accurate.
For sure.
I mean, what I've done recently, I'll have it ask.
That's a great idea. And to get to know you. Yeah.
Because it is garbage in, garbage out. So I don't know what to ask. I'm like, hey, ask me questions to determine this. And then I answer the questions, and then it gives me better responses.
I like that. I love how we start house hacking and we've gone like ding, ding, ding.
That's where all of our conversations.
We're like a ping pong.
But it's coming, right? So on the property management software side, what I'm seeing from some of these companies is triage with the tenants. So the tenants are reporting, hey, there's a leak. Before it gets to me as the property owner, where's the leak? So AI can have those conversations. Where's the leak? Is it only when it's running or when it's turned off? So by the time it gets to me, it's already been triaged. All the information's already there. And hopefully they've already given them tips on how to fix it before it even gets to me. That's what I'm seeing some of the property management software companies are doing.
Yeah, we have seen that. And there was even a new call center we were looking into that they had a way that they were inputting our work orders into our software for us already.
Which would be so
Which is
helpful.
so cool. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of ways that we will be able to utilize it. But again, yeah, you're right. It's not going to take away all the jobs. It's just going to take away like an entry level job, like just answering a phone. Sure, the AI can totally do that and do the triage. Or, like the photographer thing that we had the last time there's 4 of us. We all wanted new headshots. We all wanted this group shot. Nobody would even negotiate with us. And there was 4 of us. And we're like, you know what? Let's just try AI. If it's terrible, we'll renegotiate with them. And they turned out fantastic. So we're like, it still looks like us and, all the things. So we're like, no, some people's jobs are definitely at risk. Yes, definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Well, going back to the house hacking and what you're here to actually teach us about. So tell me, like, what did you learn on your first house hack experience? Like, what were the do's and don'ts and the things that you're like, okay, I won't do that next time?
Yeah, or the criteria of what you're looking for. What makes a good house hack?
Yeah, so I will say my first one did really well. It was my second one that was rough. The first one, to be fair, right? Well, okay, so my first one here in Los Angeles was a condo, right? So I found a condo. She'd been living there for over 30 years. It was actually, a lot of condo complexes in LA actually used to be apartments. And then they were later converted. She was actually a tenant. That's how long she had been there for. And then eventually just bought it when they converted it. But she was a heavy smoker. So most people shy away from it. But one of my first jobs out of college was actually being an assistant project manager. So I used to help a developer buy properties at the courthouse steps and then basically fix and flip them. So I looked at it, I was like, oh, I can get this done all day long, right? So some of the mistakes I probably made is I probably should have done a little bit more shopping in terms of like resources. Like I got my kitchen cabinets from like Lowe's, for example, right? And nothing wrong with it, but there's a bunch of kitchen manufacturers out there that I could have had it installed for less.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Right? So there was a lot of that that we probably could have done better. But that one I think for the most part went fairly well. I actually have to say. The second one was the trickier one because for ADUs, they were basically introduced in California in 2017. I bought mine in 2018. So I was one of the first in my little group to do them from scratch.
Wow, that was brave.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I told my wife. I was like, we're guinea pigs. Just FYI. And we did the FHA 203K loan. Don't know anyone else who's ever done it. So again, guinea pigs.
I love your honesty with your wife, though. I mean,
Yes.
she has to appreciate it. I mean, that's awesome. most couples are like, hey, babe, we're just going to try this thing, and I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
Nope. Bless her heart, she's the best. Because I think in the beginning, she didn't quite get it until you start, she's one of those people you have to show the numbers and be like, okay, here's our mortgage. This is what we're going to rent it for. This is how much is coming out of pocket. And then I think the other part was when we were dating and I bought my first house hack and we both got our taxes done, she saw the difference in rebates, right? She's like, I got like $500. I'm like, right? I was like, we got our tax returns done. She said, oh, I got a refund of like $500. I'm like, I got like $4,000.
Wow, that's so cool.
Right? So she starts seeing some of those things that people don't think about that comes with home ownership.
It's true. It's
Right?
true.
It's so true. And so when you say that your second one didn't go as great as your first one, what were just some things that you were like, wait, I didn't think that was going to happen?
So the city inspector for our area actually on another property, not ours, fell off a roof and broke his back. So yeah, basically the city was short staffed. So every time we called for inspection, it would take 10 days for them to come. But then the problem is you can't touch the property. So a 4-month project took a year. Also with the FHA 203K loan, it's a great loan program, but they're very slow to cut checks. You have to work with your contractor. So it was a deal because my contractor's like, Rick, you owe me money, and I'm like, it's coming. And because I was also engaged, so we had money saved for the wedding, so we're like, let's front some of it from the wedding fund, knowing we were going to get.
I love your wife. Every sentence that comes out of your mouth, I'm like, wow, she's amazing.
You're like, this wedding savings fund we have here, I'm just going to take a little.
So we ran into a lot of issues with the lender. They were just dragging their feet sometimes too. So basically how it works, in case anyone's listening, is once you get a section of the work done, you have what's called a HUD consultant, right? So the HUD consultant, he basically goes out there to make sure the work's done. But then it's his or her judgment as to how much is done and how much money to give. So I remember calling my contractor and said, hey, good news, I got like $12,000 heading your way. He's like, that's great, but you owe me 60. I was like, don't know how PG this podcast has to be. So we just ran into a lot of those issues, from the get-go. And so the project took a lot longer. We're fronting the cost of the mortgage. And then French doors took forever to come in. So our house was sitting empty for like 10 weeks because the city wouldn't let us touch it. In hindsight, what I would have done during those 10 weeks is we're in LA. I should have posted it on all these websites. Like, does anyone want to shoot a commercial on a mid-construction site?
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
That's genius. Well, I will say that
I didn't even think about it.
yeah, despite all of these issues that you had, you're super successful. And I wanted to ask you how you're dealing with, you said you invested all over the place, which I personally would not feel comfortable doing. I only like to invest in my own little market because I'm here and I'm hands-on. So explain that, how that kind of rolled out and transitioned and how that's working for you. Make us less scared.
Fair enough. Okay, so we moved into our second house hack. I rented out my condo. Then after 4 years, my tenants moved out. And Los Angeles isn't necessarily the most landlord friendly.
Yeah, not at all. We're seeing lots of people coming to our market because of that, for sure. Lots of, they're coming in hordes right now.
Oh, yeah. Most of my listings right now are investor.
Yeah, and they're able to transition. So I just had one client, he had 2 homes in somewhere in California. Some random place like off of a military base, and he sold those homes and transitioned one house into a 4-plex over here. So he's like living the dream, and he's just happy. Keeps going. Yeah, he's like, wow, I can do that. So he did it again, and now he's doing it a 3rd time within a 4-month period. So this is like super fast. And then his friends are seeing what he's doing, and they're doing it. And then even his realtor was like, wow, look what you're doing. I just sold your single family, like really. And she said it was like in shambles house. And now he's got these 4-plexes that are in pretty decent shape, and they're renting out really well, and they're cash flowing really well. So we're definitely seeing that. And they're very excited about the fact that we are so landlord friendly here in Florida. Yeah. So that's been a huge bonus for us.
I mean, you just explained it for me. We'll see you in the next episode.
What my question for you was more, how do you feel comfortable investing in a market that is so far away from you, that you're not able to self-manage like you were managing your first 2? Like, because you're saying Tennessee, and I believe you have all over the U.S., which is really impressive. For me, I think that's extremely impressive.
So it's a good question. It's all about mitigating risk, right? So in 2022, when I sold my condo, because we were still in the COVID area, the eviction moratorium was still in place in LA, which means I could have put in the perfect tenant, perfect on paper, great personality, but the next day they could say, I'm not going to pay you.
Yeah, and we definitely did not have that here. We had like full no COVID. We just talked about that in our last episode.
We were so lucky.
And look, I get it. In LA, we were like, at one point we were the epicenter. Like, it was real. I'm not denying any of that. But I think where the disconnect with politicians, with whatever, it's like, these are business decisions we have, right? So I was like, I basically forced to sell. And it was also just a good time to sell in general, but still. So I sold the condo. And then I did a line of credit on my house, which, to clarify, I did a line of credit on the condo to buy the second one. So technically I bought my second house at 0 down. But I did the line of credit, sold the condo. Then with a business partner, family member, longtime investor client of mine, we actually went 50-50 on our property in Nashville. And then...
So you're mitigating the risk also by investing with other people too. So that's a little helpful.
Exactly.
So you don't have all the weight.
I'd feel more comfortable.
Right. And he had already owned properties in Nashville. So he already had the property manager, the realtor.
Yeah, nice. So he knew about it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Because I'm like, wow, how do you just randomly just go crazy? But yeah, I see what you're saying. There is a path. That makes sense.
And then we picked Alabama for just us. You know, we kind of created a list of what we wanted in a market. But because it was our first time investing out of state, I also did want to be price conscious. And Alabama is very affordable. So it was one of those where it was this triplex. It didn't have hot water heaters. It needed some other work, but because it didn't have hot water heaters, it wasn't financeable. And so the seller got full price offers, but I guess decided not to install hot water heaters. So I ended up negotiating it like half off.
That's insane. Why wouldn't you just install the water heaters and call it a day?
You're like, I didn't ask questions. I just took the deal and ran.
Exactly. Right? So we bought it, hot water heaters, new AC units, fixed it up. Basically the Burr method, right? And then cashed out. So we bought it, rehabbed it, rented it out, refinanced. And I actually, out of my own cash, I ended up doubling my own cash.
Isn't that insane? Yeah, a bunch of my bigger investors, that's what I see them do that all the time. And I'm like, oh, I can do that. I can do that.
And look, did I technically get all my money back? I got all of my cash back that I did, but I didn't necessarily including the purchase price because I got that from my condo, part of the 1031 exchange. And that's kind of how we got started.
And so, yeah, again, for our viewers, if you want to explain a little bit 1031 exchange, just so that they are aware, like, we're really just trying to break it down for people because a lot of people don't know what we're saying, and we are using a lot of acronyms, and we know what we're talking about, but you know, other people are not in the know.
Oh, I totally agree. So basically, when you live in your primary residence and you sell, as long as you lived in it 2 of the last 5 years, the first 250,000 gain is tax-free for single, 500,000 if you're married. If it's an investment property, the government's like, you don't get any benefits. You're going to get hit with capital gains unless you reinvest that money into another rental property. And that's what the 1031 exchange is. You're not paying taxes, you're deferring it. You're kicking the can down the road till hopefully you drop dead and your heirs get it, but they get the step up basis. So then they never get their money. At least that's how the current tax code kind of works. Yeah. As of today, things can change. It's a way to scale up, right? I sold my one condo and we got 7 doors.
I know, that's so bonkers, right?
No, it is.
It's really, it's so cool.
I see a lot of people, because our market here is so high. So they'll own a single family home here, they'll sell the single family home, and then they'll go where it used to be like South Carolina. I saw a lot of that. Now their market's, it's flying as well. But they were going there and they were buying multifamily homes and making triple what they were making in rent here because they had 3-4 doors rather than the 1 door. So a lot of people do.
It's a great strategy.
Yeah, it is. It's a great strategy.
Yeah.
And on that note, like when you're talking, when you were just saying, when you were looking at the areas and making sure, you know, the risk factors, when you're looking for a home to do this with, are there things that you stay away from? Like what are those number killers?
That's a good question. So everyone keeps talking about insurance lately, like insurance is such a deal killer. For me, it's not as big an issue as the cost of rehab. Right? So on my triplex last year, I think it was last year, insurance came out and said, hey, you got to trim this tree. This tree was massive. Oh yeah, no, this isn't just like, oh, bring a gardener and like trim it. This cost, yeah, right? Like I could have done it. No, it cost almost $5,000. And so one of the challenges that I think we're going to be seeing going forward is it's going to be actually harder to buy some of these really small homes because the cost of trimming that tree is the same.
Yeah, and it doesn't really add value to the house. Like it's not like the end buyer is like, thanks so much for cutting that tree. That was so expensive. They're like, I want to see if the bathroom is brand new and the kitchen is fancy and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So like what I'm doing is when I'm reviewing properties, I am looking at like, are there any freaking trees in the area?
It is, yeah. No, it is such a big deal.
Yeah, you get jaded.
Well, and something we run into here often is trees around your home. You might be taking care of the tops, but then those roots are growing into your cast iron pipes.
Yep.
And people don't even think of that. I always tell my buyers, I'm like, you need to get a scope.
Yep.
Make sure you're scoping those lines because you don't even think of that. It's something that happens way too often here.
Very frequently.
But yeah, it's like where are those trees and where are they growing?
Like I care about the environment, but I also care about my sewer line. Like,
yes.
Exactly.
Well, I really like where this is all headed. This has been really fantastic already so far. But we love to share a really funny or interesting story on our podcast because that's what everybody's here to listen into because they like to hear, you know, something random and wild. And we always have the best story. So I heard you had a really good story about a seller who faked their death in escrow. Like, how do you even do that?
I need to hear this story.
Yes.
That is.
Okay, so it was actually my second house out here in LA. The owner was selling, his wife had passed away, so he was gonna basically downsize and move, which is like, cool, I get it. We were one of 17 offers, so we ended up getting it. One of the tricks, by the way, is doing the escalation clause, right? So whatever offer comes in.
You're gonna have to explain that. Sorry. Time out.
But here's the caveat with that. Don't put a cap on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Although that's scary. Isn't that scary?
Why? If you get on a practical basis, if it comes back and you don't like the price, you don't have to proceed.
Yeah, that's true. You don't have to go back to it, but it feels scarier, I think.
We saw a lot of that here during COVID.
Yeah.
A lot of people were using those escalation clauses and did not have caps. They were waiving their inspection periods. It was insane what we were seeing.
Or they were like, yeah, cap it after 25,000. And I'm like, 25,000? Are you sure? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was wild. I mean, but like for us, I was like, whatever. If you don't like the price, then we don't buy it. Ended up being, it came in ridiculously high. I was like, they did this because they know it won't appraise, and they're going to want to renegotiate. I want to renegotiate. So I ended up going in, and we actually ended up getting the price down like almost like 40 grand. So I think it was like almost 10%. Just through negotiation of inspections. Anyways, so back to it. 3 days into escrow, I had my broker represent us, and he gets a phone call from the agent saying, hey, we entered escrow, and all of a sudden he got a random call from some lady that says, why are you selling my house? house. She didn't die. The seller had no idea.
This was his wife? This is his wife that he told you that she was dead?
So the seller's wife faked her death. Yeah, and like I remember years later, I met up with the agent because we were in escrow on a property together, and he was telling me all about it. I was like, yeah, she looked like she was on her deathbed, and it was all done through video. And I have a feeling they might have already been in the process of like separation. It was my guess, but
wait. So did the husband think that she was dead? He did. The husband actually.
Oh, we thought he just faked it.
Yeah, so did I.
We thought they just faked the death to you, but they faked the death to each other.
Yeah, like she's like, I want out of this. I'm dead.
Holy crap! But don't sell my house while I'm dead.
Right? Well, like, and to be fair, like I was like, well, what? And then like. Yeah, I guess like one of her friends came by and said, hey, here's the death certificate, which, to be fair, not everyone's seen a death certificate. So how would you know if it's legitimate or not?
She went to a very extreme length.
Yes, she did.
But like Title would have found out. Well, they would have, right? Because we had just entered escrow. So at some point, Title's going to do their due diligence and be like, where's the death certificate? You're like, oh, here you go. And they're like, this is fake. We're going to find out eventually. Yeah.
She must really hate her husband.
I was literally like, how bad was he? And what did she think that he was just going to keep that house forever and she would just turn up in a few years and be like, hey.
Yeah, like when he dies, I'll take my house back. Oh my gosh.
Like, what was her, I just want to know her plan.
Who knows? Like maybe to that point, or maybe it's like, well, now that she saw the house is under contract, now it's time for her to reveal herself because now she gets half the money.
Wow.
Wait, so did the sale end up going through?
Yes, it did.
We just added her to the contract and moved on.
Well, they're like, hey, we need a few days to figure this out. And so I called my then fiance, and I'm like, so funny story. And I'm like cracking up on the phone. And I checked my emails, and sure enough, inspections were underway. Everything got taken care of. I'm like, cool. I'll bet you that's probably what helped us in negotiating such a big price reduction, was probably like the husband's just like, if we fall out of escrow, I now have to review offers with her. I now have to deal with her. That was probably my guess.
Wow, that is a really,
I'm sure.
really good story.
Never heard of someone successfully
faking their
death before.
Yeah, we've had like sellers actually die, especially in our market. Like we're the young people in our market. Yeah, that happens a lot, but not actually faking death. That's hilarious.
That is great. He's like, I thought you were dead. Like, what are you doing here?
Oh my gosh. Well, that leads perfectly into one of our next points about if you could. So our whole podcast mantra is basically survive, thrive, and hopefully retire by 45 in our business. And it seems like you're well on track. I don't know if you have a specific door count in mind or you have exactly what you want, but that's kind of what we like to discuss on each episode with one of our guests.
Sure. So, when I'm investing, I'm looking at more as like my version of a 401k. So it's more of like, okay, my margins can be slightly tighter because I'm looking at the long term, which allows me to scale faster, right? Because then I'm focusing more on the like base hits rather than the home runs. So in terms of like specific door count, not necessarily, because it's really more about cash flow than it is necessary door count. But I would say, I think we have to, if I'm 45 and I'm set up for retirement, what I'm envisioning is bigger buildings. So like, we're talking like the 5 to 10 unit space or larger, right? Because the reality, just like we talked about, a tree's a tree, a sewer line's a sewer line, a roof's a roof. So, and arguably the cost of to replace a roof on a single family home might be the same as a multifamily because it could be, if it's 2 stories. So that's really where I'm actually heading is like, for example, my triplex. At some point I'm going to sell it because there's enough equity and I could actually buy from a triplex to a 6 unit in the same market. So I'm doubling my count and it didn't cost me anything because I did a 1031 exchange. So I think that's more of what it would be in terms of, what would I be doing if I was retired? I'd probably still be in the game, but I would have a base, right? So like, for example, I'm like, okay, this is how much I need to retire. Anything else I do is for fun. If I'm buying another investment property, it's for fun. If I'm scaling up, it has to do better in terms of cash flow than what I have now, right? Versus some people might look and say, well, I'm willing to lose a bit of money because it's in a better market, whatever. It's like, for me, it's like, no, if I'm trying to stay retired, I have to be very protective of my cash.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And there's definitely markets that are just like on their deathbeds right now. So it's very scary times for some people around the.
You know, people have asked me in terms of investing out of state, like, where would you invest? I'm like, you know, the first place I'd look is the top 10 cities with a declining, you know, value. The whole point is to buy low. So why wouldn't you go where the job growth is? Because like even some markets, even with prices going down, they still have population growth. They still have good job markets. At some point, they're going to come back. Where the challenge is you're competing against new construction.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about new construction the other day on our call with you, which is really interesting. And that's kind of why Florida has become a real big hotspot, because we have a lot of developers doing a lot of new construction. And again, like you're saying, maintenance fees and things like that are high, but not on a new construction.
Right.
So, and then we have our new fun, you know, Governor DeSantis talking about no property taxes on your primary residence, which everyone's like, please, please, please. And we're totally, yeah, it's on the radar. I think that it has a really good shot of making it through, because the main people who vote here are older people, and they're definitely homesteaded people. They're going to go out and vote for sure. Yeah, and they don't care. They do not care about schools at all. They really don't. You know, they're older. They don't have kids. Most of them don't even have grandkids here. So they're like, I don't care if the school system, you know, has to find their money somewhere else. And I think that DeSantis also has a really good mitigation plan for those things too. It's not like he's just going to let it fly. I mean, he has some plans and ideas in place, which I think would replace the small portion of homestead that would get affected.
Right.
So yeah, we are expecting a lot of people coming our way in November if that really passes.
Yeah. And to be fair, if you're looking to retire, why wouldn't you move to Florida and buy a 2-unit? Do you guys have homes with ADUs that are new construction?
No, not necessarily.
I don't see it that often.
I would say yes, but maybe in much higher end product.
Right.
So in like normal product, I would say nobody's really doing that, although it's becoming more allowable. And I think that more cities are going to start to take note what's happening in Bradenton and see that it's successful. I remember a few years ago, I had a client, he tried to it already had an ADU in there and we had to fight it and in Sarasota. And then he had to redo it and it was like a total disaster. But I think that they're eventually going to get on board, and it's just something that's natural that's going to happen because you see more, you know, different generations of families living in homes, people needing to care for their parents, especially in our market. We have a little bit older market, so we have those people taking care of their parents, raising their kids, this and that. So I think
multi-generational households now.
Actually, if a developer would come to our market and do something like that, they would just stomp it.
When you had asked me that question before about, you know, at 45, one thought I did have was like, okay, an argument could be move to Florida, house hack, but new construction, because your capital expenditures are going to be low, and you get rental income, and then honestly, you just live out your days. At some point, the mortgage will be paid off, right? But then once the mortgage is paid off, then you're really golden, because you're probably going to be in your 60s or 70s. Do a reverse mortgage. Now you're getting all this tax-free money. You're still getting income from the other unit, and you go party hard.
Yeah. I feel like anybody who's not going to listen to this episode, like they're missing out completely 1000%. There was so much good information dropped in this from everybody, and I think it's really, really fantastic. And thank you. I really appreciate that for sure.
Of course, I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, the other main closing tradition that we have on our podcast is to feature whatever charity is near and dear to your heart. So we would love a little note on, and you can have an ask for us. We've gotten asked a lot of crazy things we were not expecting. So we're like, oh my gosh, we need to make a list, and then we have to do a whole video of us doing the things that we've been asked to do. So be nice. California is kind of far away, so hopefully it's okay.
Like, I want you to fly here and spend a week working at this charity, and we're like,
okay.
No, I you know, we're always a big fan of Children's Hospital LA. You know, here locally, you know, kids need some love. They have a lot going on. I know for a wedding, what we did was we asked people, we created a list of like specific toys. So we called the hospital and said, hey, what kind of toys do you need? And oftentimes people will go and buy the action figures, the dolls, but they kind of forget about the babies and infants. So we, right? Like tears. Yeah, right? Because like they just...
You do not want to think about babies in a hospital. You don't.
Exactly. So what we had done was we created a list of toys for guests to buy. And I was like, look, whatever you guys buy, we'll match it. And so that's what we did. So we went to the hospital. We had all these toys, and so that was always kind of near and dear. 'Cause, again, like it's not like they were smokers or like they did anything to put themselves in that position, right? So yeah, that was always kind of near and dear. If you want to do a national organization, I mean, Habitat for Humanity has always been really interesting and creative, especially when the people who get the homes, have to do so many hours on the project. Yeah, I'm a big proponent of like helping hands, not handouts. So it's a good like compromise.
It's a great thing. Yeah, we actually, one of our guests that will be on soon, she is the head of Habitat for Humanity in our area, and she does a lot of really fantastic stuff. So we're really excited to promote that. And then going back to the Children's Hospital, we also love our local Children's Hospital. I didn't know what I would do without it. I accidentally took my son to a regular hospital because he was having appendicitis, thinking it's going to be fine. Like 5-10 minutes in, I realized they do not know what they're doing with children. Yep. They are not, like, it was bad. And we took him straight to the Children's Hospital. Everything after that was just magical. All children's. Yeah, I mean, it was like night and day. It was terrifying. He was 3 years old. Going through appendicitis, like we had no idea it looked like the exorcism of Emily Rose, like it was ridiculous. And my husband spotted it because he had appendicitis apparently. So anyways, we figured it out, got him to the hospital. Within a half hour, they did the surgery, got everything done. I mean, and they made us feel so calm. They're like, why don't you guys go to dinner while we do the surgery? And we're like, go to dinner? Like our only child is like literally dying. Like, what are you saying? But they're like, it's going to be fine. The procedure is like super non-invasive. Like it's not a big deal. We do it all the time. And we're like, great. Like we felt so much more comfortable, whereas in the other hospital, I mean, Children's Hospital make big difference. Like even the way they put the IVs in, like it's just a whole different world. So yeah, we really appreciate those causes too.
Yeah, every time we travel, I always have to look up for the nearest children's hospital. Yeah, whatever country we go to, we always have like, my wife loves her PowerPoint presentations when it comes to traveling. So I made sure there was an extra slide of like, all right, here are the hospitals. We have one and she just turned 2. Yeah, nice. Yep, I have a baby, or I love coffee. Yeah, and it was interesting because like when we talked about our rental properties, I made it clear to my wife, I was like, look, as she gets older, she's going to help out with the property. This isn't, otherwise she's not getting it. I'll donate.
We talk about this
all the time.
We're like, are we going to leave our kids this empire? Nope, not unless they're going to get their hands dirty.
Yeah, because we both come from families that...
We come from nothing.
We didn't come from money. And so now we're raising our kids into very different lifestyles than what we came in. And it's like, what, we can't just hand all this to you.
Yeah, they can't just be useless trust fund babies.
Right.
Not allowed.
Right. So it's something that
they'll blow the money.
Oh yeah, they'll blow it in a heartbeat. And it took us this, like it takes all this energy and effort.
This is my life. My life is, I like doing is building our real estate box. So.
I agree. So she'll be on the calls with the property manager. She'll help me review some of the property stuff. And it's like, you don't want to be a part of it? That's fine. Then it's going to get donated. Like, I don't...
Then go build your own.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. So one of the funniest stories with my oldest one, he was maybe 4 or 5 at the time. And I would be doing all the calls in the car all the time. I'm like, you need to catch up on your rent. You need to catch up on your rent. And one day he asked me, he's like, Mommy, why do you always ask people to put ketchup on their rent? It doesn't make any sense. Like, who would put a packet of ketchup on their rent? And I'm like, he's just hearing me over and over and over.
That's such a cute one, though.
It was really cute. I'm like, oh, baby, not real ketchup.
Not real ketchup.
Just ketchup. And then he would start to, you got to catch up on your rent. No, but the other thing he would start saying is he'd just be mouthing off in the back because he's heard me so many times. So he would be like, can't stay, can't pay.
They just hear your 4-year-old in the background.
I'm like, if he gets it, you can get it.
You understand.
He's only 4.
Yeah, I think, but I also think like it's important, right, for them to know. And my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, studies show that generational wealth typically doesn't get past the 3rd generation.
It's true. It's very true. And that's why.
That would be my daughter's kids.
Yep. No, we're all on the right path then.
We have like the Rockefellers, right? So they have board meetings and all the family members attend the board meetings. And if there's a board member that got married, then that significant other also has to attend the board meetings. Like everybody knows what's going on.
Yeah, it's like that. What's that one show called? Gosh, I'm totally blanking on it now, but it was so good with the family and they own all the TV stations.
I know what you're talking about.
On Apple TV?
Succession, yes. I loved that show. Yeah, that show was killer.
No, it's the same concept. And I think I was talking to someone recently And he's like, well, why are you going to just hand everything over? And like, I had to think about that because like we all worked hard. And then I was listening to a different podcast and he said it perfectly. He's like, we're building this so that way our kids can do what they're passionate about. If they want to start a nonprofit, they can start a nonprofit. If they want to be a teacher versus a doctor, like they have that flexibility because we're able to give it to them.
Right.
That's very nice. Yeah.
No, it's so true.
So I was like, that's why we're doing it. Very much so.
This was like one of the most fantastic interviews we've had. And you're really one of our first out of studio. So it was very nerve-wracking.
I'm honored. I'm glad everything worked out.
Oh, and I did want to ask you, I like to ask some of our guests, what is your favorite podcast to listen to?
So I can't be biased and say my own, right? I have the key to the City of Angels.
You can always promote your own. Go for it.
No, I will say my favorite podcast is actually On the Market by Bigger Pockets. So it's not the Bigger Pockets podcast. It's one of their off shows. And what they do is they focus specifically on things that are going on in the industry and things that are going on in the news. And then they tie it back to real estate investing. So if they're like, well, they see that the buyer market's cooled, then they'll bring investors on and say, here's how I'm pivoting based on this information.
Nice. We should.
Because a lot of the investing podcasts out there, they're either like too basic for like when you reach a certain point, right? So they're great for certain people, or like, oh, we're talking about, short-term rentals. I don't do short-term rentals. So it's like, this is a show where no matter what they're talking about, I can relate to it. And I can also use that information to educate myself, educate friends, clients, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, On the Market. It's probably one of my favorites right now.
Well, this was really great. And again, I really appreciate you asking us if there was anybody else that you think that we should encounter, and you would set up the meet and greet for that. Now that you kind of know us a little better, if you think of anybody in particular that you think would be a good fit for us and our show, then please let us know because we'd really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I put some thought into it.
He has his own podcast and it's awesome. We've watched it. It has great tips and just really informational. So we will have his podcast information at the bottom here.
Yeah,
so
all the information.
Yeah, all of Rick's information. So if you're interested, please.
Yeah, you're a fabulous guest.
Yes.
And we are totally having your wife on.
Yes.
Next time, your wife.
She's probably going to say maybe nice things about me. Well, maybe I just won't be in the room.
Hey, would she actually be on it though? Because we were trying to have a supportive spouse one, and our spouses were like, we will support you from afar.
That's usually how she is, but I'll ask.
Awesome. We appreciate that. Well, thank you so much. We loved having our time with you.
Thank you, Rick.
Of course. Thank you.
Bye. That's a wrap on another episode of Slum Dog Millionaires. If you're ready to turn dreams into dollars, smash that follow button and join us every week for more money moves and mindset magic. Don't forget to give back to your local community. Until next time, keep grinding, keep growing, and remember, your empire starts with one smart decision. Huge gratitude shout out to our production team at Icons of Real Estate.